Police turned high-pressure fire hoses on the young people and set attack dogs on them. The brutal crackdown was widely televised, and images of the event were seen around the world.
The topic of police brutality is nothing new to the United States. In fact, it is an issue that has been around for a number of years, like in the video clips that you just seen. What's different about the reporting back then compared to now is that the mediums that were used for reporting were mostly TV, radio, and newspaper. What's different about that compared to the mediums of the internet today is that the activists at those time periods did not have, the authority to make their own content for television, radio, or newspapers. The news did cover it back then. It was mostly just for a short period of time, and people tended to forget after the event had taken place, meaning that the activists really couldn't get their voice out and they were pretty much silenced. It seemed almost hopeless for activists to get their voice out when the mediums that were reporting about it to the masses weren't available to them. In the early 1990s, the issue of police brutality once again came under the spotlight. The event that happened was a beating of an unarmed black man on the side of a Los Angeles freeway by a group of white police officers. This, of course, is the Rodney King beating that many people saw on their local news, and also the protests that came afterwards, as well as the riots. This was one of the first times we saw police brutality cause so much outrage, not only in the African American community, but in the U.S. community as a whole, seeing how it wasn't a topic that many were familiar with. With the rise of the internet in the 1990s, we saw different communities of race and gender use the internet in order to communicate with others around the globe. This is what Marshall McLuhan would call the global village. By this he means that everybody around the world is able to talk to each other no matter where they are. It creates a sense of community, and it also creates a sense of relationships with others you might have never seen before. The internet allowed for an open forum which all issues could be discussed, such as the issue of police brutality. With many people around the world maybe encountering police brutality, or know others that have been subject to police brutality, or just feel like that police brutality is a big issue, these people were able to communicate on the internet to be able to create activism in order to protest against police brutality. With the creation of YouTube in 2005, videos soon dominated the internet landscape. And with videos being uploaded on a daily basis, activists knew how to new way to upload what they would try to organize or show videos of police brutality. With the creation of YouTube, this gave a new face to the activists and the issues that they had concerns with. They were able to upload their own personal thoughts and with their own personal view that people around the world could see. YouTube soon became a place where people can upload their own videos of police brutality that they may have caught on camera, or where they might have gotten from a friend or a family member or whoever. This soon led to new traditional news outlets such as TV, radio, and newspapers. One such, how it used to be decades ago in the 1960s and 70s, soon felt like they had to report on this issue. In Chapter 12 of Joshua Meyerowith's book, No Sense of Place, he discusses the role of hierarchy and how hierarchy can be undermined by new media and new mediums. The internet is a perfect example of this, and how the internet is able to undermine the traditional roles of hierarchy by it being possible for all people. It doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, any race, any gender, all can use it to report to their needs. With communities feeling voiceless before not having access to mediums that are dominated by select few, the internet opened up a way for them to show the real events that are going on in their communities or in the United States as a whole that is not being reported on. Related to this issue of police brutality, here are some recent videos of what many call police brutality or excessive force that have been widely talked about not only on the internet but also in traditional news media such as television, radio, and print news.
Don't touch him, please. Girl came over, gave us a damn, man.
Alright, right down. Give us your hand, buddy.
Put your hand behind your back. You can't breathe.
Right. Right. His leg look broke. Look at his leg. Look at his leg. That boy leg look broke. Oh my God. His leg broke and y'all dragging him like that.
Even as these videos became widespread, it also created a divide by the people who viewed them. Many people thought this was an issue between racial communities committing crimes, while racial communities saw this issue as just excessive force and abuse of police power. Even though the internet has allowed for an open forum, it also has led to much negativity, but also positivity as well. In regards to YouTube, famous YouTubers have also talked about the issue of police brutality. In the video you'll see, this is one famous YouTuber who discusses her view about the whole Mike Brown shooting and how she views her community that might have, years ago, might have not had a voice without the internet.
I decided not to indict Darren Wilson. I couldn't help think of how Mike Brown will never get to turn 31. I think of all the things surrounding Mike's murder. My heart starts to pound and I feel angry and scared and helpless. Because it's not just about him being shot 6 times or being called a demon by Darren Wilson or the police lying about him being a robbery suspect or the media focusing on a handful of rioters and not the peaceful protesters or police showing up with tanks and throwing tear gas in people's yards like they were going to war, or the medical examiner not taking a picture of Mike Brown's body because he didn't have camera batteries, or the police lying about how far he was away from the car, or the prosecutor botching the case and blaming social media and people calling protesters and rioters animals, but not saying shit about white people burning up cars after sporting events and pumpkin festivals, and of course Darren Wilson hopping on ABC the next day to give an interview. No, it's not just about all of that. It's about the constant framing of black victims as thugs and gangsters and monsters when their killers are the ones should be on trial. It's about black bodies being seen as dangerous just for existing. It's about the long list of innocent, unarmed black men, women, and children whose lives have been ended by the police.
Because she's a famous YouTuber, she has many subscribers and many members in her following that would probably look up to her and see her as a media friend. This would then create a larger presence of the issue and make it more talked about if the more subscribers and more people that follow her are willing to discuss the issues that she is as well. YouTube has given these communities and groups more power that they might have felt they didn't have before the rise of YouTube or even the internet. In the last section, I'll be talking about how YouTube has become the new source of activism. The issue of police brutality and YouTube has even had a mark on the political landscape. Now, many presidential candidates are poised with the question, what are you going to do about excessive force by police officers? We can see that the activism in this case has worked. With the large community base around YouTube, the internet as a whole, and people out in the streets as well, getting their voice out, and with news outlets feeling like they have to report on this issue, we've seen a change in tide, which finally, that the issue of police brutality might be able to open up a dialogue and a way to resolve the issue as a whole. This may lead many to think, is YouTube a place where hierarchy might be undermined? Is it a place where nobody, or no issue I should say, is safe from being discussed? It's definitely a theory to look at. It is a question that many of us need to ask. It also asks the question, is YouTube and the internet as a whole make it so that issues that we might have not talked about before, that are now being talked about, have to be resolved? Is there no more hiding from it, no more forgetting as we used to in the past? Lastly, we gotta ask the question, is YouTube making it so that activism and social change happen faster than previously before? It took over 20 years for the civil rights movement to have some type of effect, and we're still trying to bring civil rights to this country, even long after Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and many other civil rights leaders. Especially with the topic of police brutality, it seems like this issue is one that's going to be what many are calling the new civil rights era, and seeing how police deal with minorities or other racial groups. Thank you all for watching. I hope that this presentation has been helpful and a little bit insightful how activism plays a large role not only on the internet, but as YouTube as well.